What's up guys, my name is Ace, and now that we've got all of the maps that we can expect to see throughout the life cycle of Modern Warfare 3, it's time to do a finalized 6v6 map tier list. So I'm going to be going through every 6v6 map in the game, excluding variants. We're not going to be covering those at all, and I'm just going to be ranking them. I did this like midway through the year, and I just wanted to keep this updated so you guys can see my finalized list of all of the maps in this game. And before we get into this, of course, these are just going to be my opinions based on my experiences, keeping in mind this is also primarily coming from the perspective of Domination. That's my preferred game mode, so your list may vary depending on the mode you play or just your preferences, but these are my preferences. And let's just dive right into this with 6 Star, which is an S tier map, but I feel like they never really nailed the spawns down flawlessly on this map. There's still room for improvement there, and I feel like the flow just wasn't quite where it should have been, considering how good the map itself was. So I'm actually going to drop it down to A tier here, even though the map itself I think is easily capable of becoming an S tier with good spawns. As for Checkpoint, absolute trash. I hate that map. It's one of my least favorite maps in the game. It just has terrible flow to it. You can see spawns way too easily across the map. Like the lines of sight aren't controlled super well, and there's no safety within the spawns, so absolute D tier for me. Afghan, definitely an A tier, maybe S tier. I'm going to put it probably A tier as well. I want to save S tier for their truly special maps. So that's where Afghan's going to go. Still a solid map. Next, we have Bait. Definitely an A tier as well for me. Again, not quite at that S tier level, but plays really well. It's the perfect size in my eyes, where there's a lot of action, but there's a bit of room to breathe as well. The spawns actually tend to play out quite well on that map as well, at least for Domination. And I do like what it has to offer, as well as the aesthetics too. I really like the aesthetics of that map. After that, we have Breenberg Hotel, which I'm going to put as a B tier map. That might be partially just because we played it last year as well in Modern Warfare 2, so I don't know. I don't really dislike this map, but I don't love it at the same time, so I think it's just a good all-around map. Then getting into Dome, I would also consider that to be an A tier map. It's not quite S tier for me. I really do enjoy playing it, but it's not a map that I like really look forward to when I end up seeing it pop up. Then when it comes to Drive-Thru, the newest map that we have available in Modern Warfare 3, as far as gameplay goes, I don't love it, but I really do like the aesthetic of it, especially with the Halloween theme and everything. And as a result, I'm going to put that as a B tier map. It's pretty good, but not amazing. For Crown Raceway, I also consider that to be a B tier map. It's not bad by any means, but also nothing I really look forward to playing all that much. Then when it comes to Greece, for some reason, I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of Greece, but for me, I really do like it. I'm actually going to put that as an A tier map, even though I know full well some of you guys would put this as a B or C tier map. It's an A tier for me. I quite like playing it. Derail, I'm going to throw down into the D tier. I'm happy to skip that anytime it comes up. Honestly, I think I've only played that like a small handful of times throughout the entire life cycle of this game, largely because I think it was removed from rotation from some modes, or many of the modes at least, for a long period of time, which I was okay with. Then when it comes to High Rise, that's an S tier map. That's our first S tier we're going to put on this list here. I love High Rise, always have, and I still think it plays great in this game. As for Departures, I think it's pretty solid. I think it's a solidly B tier map. I don't mind it. It's pretty okay. Mercado Las Almas, not a big fan. I just find it doesn't flow super well. It at least flows a little bit better than it did in Modern Warfare 2, but not by a large margin, so I'm going to put that in the C tier. As for Das Haus, as far as small maps go, I think it's a pretty good small map. I don't tend to enjoy the super chaotic maps like this, but as far as they go, I'm going to put it as a B tier at least. And it's a similar story with Meat. I quite like Meat, even though I don't want to be playing a map like this every single game. It's just way too chaotic for my tastes. But as far as the small maps go, I actually think this is my favorite small map in the game. So I'm going to put it as an A tier map. And after that, we've got Emergency, which is okay. I think it's a solid B tier map for me. I think the spawns are still pretty rough at times on that. It's hard to balance the spawns on a map that size, as well as just based on the lines of sight toward the spawns. It's pretty difficult for them to balance those, but overall, not a bad map. I do enjoy fighting toward the middle of that map for sure. Rust, I absolutely hate outside of anything but like 1v1 or 2v2, so we're looking at this from a 6v6 perspective. I can't stand Rust, and I'm very happy to back out of a Rust match. Then we have Scrapyard, which, S tier. I love Scrapyard. It's a great size. It's small, but not so small that there isn't any room to breathe. It's not like a super small chaotic map. It's just a nice small size map that plays really well. It did back in the day, and it still does to this day. For Shoot House, that's another smaller map that I actually quite enjoy, and I'm going to throw that as an A tier map. I think it's really good as far as the smaller maps go, and I do quite enjoy playing that. Then when it comes to Tanked, I don't think I hate this quite as much as some people. I know some people would put this in D tier just because it's very large. I actually find it plays reasonably well considering the size of it, and it's a nice change of pace, and unfortunately I haven't seen it pop up in rotation in a really long time. I feel like I haven't played this map in literally months at this point, which is unfortunate because I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. I do think it's a C tier map. Then when it comes to Favela, it pains me to say this, but in this game, in Modern Warfare 3, I consider it to be a C tier map. Now, in the original Modern Warfare 2, it was probably A tier, maybe even S tier for me. I really liked it in the original, but in this game, I just feel like they never got the spawns in a good place, especially for Domination. There were far too many spawns that would happen where they were pushed up on the map, far too close to the B flag, and that made it way too chaotic around the B flag area because you kill somebody while trying to capture B, and they can respawn and get to you before you can even finish that capture, and it was just absolute chaos in there, and I really didn't like how it played and flowed for Domination. I felt like those spawns really should have been pushed further back to the back edges of the actual map itself, like they were in the original Modern Warfare 2, and especially when you combine that with the faster movement speeds of Modern Warfare 3, I just didn't like how this played for Domination. Even though the map itself isn't really the problem here, the spawns made it play pretty bad in my opinion. After that, we got Shipment, and for those of you guys that know me, you know exactly where this is going, right in the trash. I absolutely hate Shipment outside of anything but grinding challenges really, really quickly. I know that's kind of what it's there for, but I don't get any enjoyment doing that. It's basically just a good time saver for me. So absolutely a D tier map. If I never saw Shipment again in Call of Duty, I'd be totally fine with that. And I know many of you guys are probably a little outraged at this point because for many people, that's all they want to play is Shipment 24/7. I can't stand it personally. There's just no thinking involved whatsoever. Then when it comes to Farm 18, we're going to put that as a B tier map. I think it's pretty decent. It's not bad at all. It plays better in this game than it did in Modern Warfare 2, and I don't mind playing it. I think it's a good B tier. Grime. I think this might be my favorite map in the entire game. I love Grime. I think they did such a good job with this. It plays super well, flows super well. The lanes are just, they just play so good. I really, really like Grime. I can't state that enough. And like I said, I do think this is my favorite map in the entire game. I really, really like that one. Then when it comes to Grow House, I'm going to put that as a C tier, largely due to the visibility. With this version of the map, I just found there are several areas, especially in the inside area, where character models just blend in, unlike many of the other maps in the game. And I really don't like that visibility, so I think it is going to be a C tier here, even though the original version of this map, that I would have probably put as a B tier, but yeah, that visibility issue, for me, just drops us down to a C tier. Then for Karachi, I think it's a solid B tier map. I like Karachi, definitely enjoy it, but don't get particularly excited when it pops up. It's just like, yeah, okay, let's do this. As for Incline, I quite like it. I think it's an A tier map for me. I wouldn't quite put it in S tier, but I would consider that to be an A tier map. I do enjoy that one. Invasion, I'm going to throw as C tier, largely because I am a Domination player and the spawns on this are just awful to this day. And it's not awful in the sense that like you watch players spawn or anything. It's just that C flag spawn trap is so brutal and it's so difficult to flip that spawn if you do get that C spawn. It can be very, very challenging to flip that to the A spawn. Even if you get yourself right on the A flag, your team just keeps spawning at C and you get no support there. And that just plays like crap to me. I think this is a much better map for other game modes, but for Domination, it's just not that great in this game at least. For Quarry, I like Quarry. I think it's going to be a B tier though. I don't love it. I like it. Rundown. I do think this is okay for a change of pace, but when you get the wrong lobby, it just plays way too slow. And I think it's really well suited to like 10v10 modes, for instance, or just games where you happen to get a lot of people that are playing really aggressively. In those games, I think this is quite a good map, and I probably put it as like B tier, but since it is so heavily reliant on how the enemies are playing, I'm actually going to throw that as a C tier, because some matches on Rundown are just a snooze fest. Then when it comes to Stash House, again, I don't really like tiny maps like this. Like, it's way too small for my liking, but I will say I definitely enjoy playing it more than Shipment, so I am going to sort of promote that up to C tier. I don't mind playing Stash House. If I need to grind something quickly, I would rather be playing that than Shipment. After that, we've got Subbase, and again, I think Subbase plays great. It plays just fine. I, again, haven't seen this pop up in rotation in a really long time for Domination. I feel like it's not in rotation at the moment, or I've just been really unlucky. I kind of miss playing Subbase, but at the end of the day, I don't love it either, so it's going to be a B tier for me. Then when it comes to Paris, not a bad map, not a great map. I'm probably going to throw that as a B tier as well. It's just kind of right in the middle where I don't mind playing it, but I also don't necessarily look forward to playing it. Next, let's talk about Skid Row a little bit, and this one's quite interesting. In the original Modern Warfare 2, I wasn't a big fan of Skid Row. Despite the fact that many people were, I didn't like it, and I think a huge reason for that is the time to kill was insanely fast, you had really accurate guns, and you could just lock down those lanes really, really effectively, and it was really hard to get across those lanes. But in Modern Warfare 3, we've got a slower time to kill and a much faster movement speed, which does allow you to zip through those lanes more effectively. And as a result, I actually like this map more in Modern Warfare 3 than I did back in the original Modern Warfare 2. And I'm going to throw it as an A tier map. I quite like it in this game. After that, we've got a state. I think it's a solid C tier map. I feel like that doesn't need much explanation. It's a state. It's generally never really been a map that people love to play. And I just sort of feel that it's well suited to C. I don't absolutely despise it, but it's not amazing either. Tokyo, I think, is a pretty solid B tier map. Doesn't really stand out that much to me, but it plays reasonably well. I don't mind playing it. Terminal, definitely an S tier. Love Terminal, always have loved Terminal. It's always been an S tier, always will be an S tier. And now let's get into Wasteland, which I think we know where that's going to go in the D tier here. It just doesn't play super well. That's another map, again, I haven't played in many, many months, I feel like, and I'm okay with that. After that, let's talk about Underpass a little bit. And I think this is another one of those cases where I kind of prefer Underpass in Modern Warfare 3 compared to the original Modern Warfare 2. And I think it's entirely due to the fact that our movement speeds are a lot faster and our time to kill is a little slower. So it helps us navigate those maps better. And I think I'm going to put it as a B tier, whereas in the original Modern Warfare 2, I probably would have put this more as like a C to even D tier map. I quite like it in this game, or at least I don't mind it nearly as much as back in the day. As for Vista, I think it's a pretty solid map. Again, I think probably a B tier map. I'd probably hover it between an A or B tier map, but I think I'm going to throw it as B tier. It seems like it's more of a B tier map for me. For the Get High map, again, it's one of those small meat grinder maps. I think the aesthetic was really interesting and very, very unique. And therefore, instead of a D tier, I am going to promote this up to a C tier, mainly due to that aesthetic. I thought that was pretty cool. And also the moving parts on it. I think that was also an interesting element to that. But at the end of the day, it's not really a map I get excited to play. For Yard, I actually quite like it. I'm going to throw that as an A tier map. I think it plays really well for the size of map that it is. The spawns actually work pretty well considering the map size. They're not perfect on the map, but of course it is a very small map, so that makes sense. And then Rio, I'm going to throw as a B tier map. I think it is just a decent map all around. I definitely don't mind playing it. And that's it. That's going to wrap it up for my final tier list for Modern Warfare 3. I've got this little voice in my head that's like, nah, you got to move 6-star up to the S tier. So, I want to do it, but those spawns were just never perfect. I'm doing it. I really like 6-star. I think it does deserve a spot there just due to the map design itself. But there we go. That's my final list now. And this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. Just looking at the list that I've got together here for you guys. What would you change? Are there any maps here that are like way off? Not just off by like maybe one category, but are there any maps that I put as S tier that you think are like C or D tier, or vice versa? Are there any of these maps that you think should be S tier, for instance, or A tier, but I put them as like C or D? If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.